BookTube. Well, for this Wednesday's video, I'm going to be talking about Nosferatu by F.W. Murnau, which, like Fitzlang's Metropolis last week, is probably one of the deeply influential film on cinema since then, would you say?
Yeah. Well, for German expressionism, especially.
And of course, I'm joined by Sean again, as I'm still recording this as I'm still up at his helping dig out books. So this was made in 1922, and it is described in the film as freely adapted from Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah, they didn't get. It was Prana Films did it, and they didn't get authorization, and they changed everything, thinking that they might be okay with it, but the heirs, Florence Stoker, the widow of Bram Stoker, didn't like it, so it actually went through courts, and they were ordered to destroy all copies. Well, obviously, and gratefully, that didn't happen.
The plot of the film, whilst it's not obviously like most, in fact, arguably this sort of sets the sort of tradition for Dracula adaptation, the fact that it's very not overly faithful necessarily.
Well, like I say, they wanted to distance themselves, thinking that they could get away with it, but they didn't.
No. But it does have the sort of, even though they try to get around that, it does still have the sort of basic plot elements of Hutter, who is the name for Jonathan Harker, going to Dracula's castle to sign the deeds for the house. Him discovering that Count Orlok, who is Dracula in this film, is a vampire. Then Orlok's journey to, in this case, Wiesburg in Germany, from Transylvania by sea, and him attacking the ship's crew, and then his arrival in Wiesburg, and his attempt to, at that point, the plot very much sort of disappears from, it sort of diverts greatly from the original novel, and he goes after Hutter's wife but dies in the attempt. Because he stays there too long and the sun comes up and that gets him.
Well, she seduces him to stay there longer, gets him to stay longer, because there's a neat, if anybody's ever seen it, The Shadow of the Vampire sort of is sort of the making of this film, and it's Willem Dafoe's Dracula. It's like he's getting drunk and he's like drugged on the blood, and he's lost a sense of time.
That is a very good film. Very funny as well. That's probably the most famous image from it is Orlok himself. Let me just see if I can find an image of it in here. Well, there's one of him. This is when he's on the ship attacking the crew.
Yeah, it's as if he does a little dance along the edge or something, but yeah. And then going up the stairs, if they've got the shadow with the hand.
Yeah, there's another one. That's when I think that's where he first. That's where he's going after Hutter the first time, I think.
Yeah.
So that's when near the beginning of the film. And let me just see if I can find it. It doesn't seem to be in here.
Oh, you can show the death scene on the back.
Oh yeah. And then this is, of course, as you can see, instead of sort of doing a puff of smoke or burn his best in the flame, it's almost like he's being erased as the sun comes up. It's an interesting way of doing it. It's unique.
Simple double exposure to do it.
Yeah.
I'm getting blinded by an unseen sun here at times.
Yeah, as you said in the Metropolis video, Fitzlang liked to use a lot of ink titles.
Yeah.
And Murnau a lot less. I didn't notice that in this.
Yeah. Murnau worked towards trying to get no intertitles at all and no description, that the images should tell the story. And he achieved that with, especially with their lead, that's the pronunciation, but the last laugh.
Yeah.
And is the only thing that's in there is just a letter. That's a bit of a letter is showing, and that's it. And you can understand everything, what's going on in the story.
I think watching this, I think they could have taken out a couple of titles from this, and it still would have probably made sense, just the visuals. And also, I did like the fact that I think it's when they go from night to day, the tinting changes.
Yeah, well, yeah, there was always, I think it. Oh, memory's going now, but I think blue was the usual for night, because they couldn't shoot at night because the cameras, but they shot during the daytime, but then tinted it blue. So without tinting, it doesn't look right. No. It looks like he's running around in the daylight.
I did think that there was one scene when he arrives at the castle, and I think it's untinted, and Orlok says it's midnight, and I'm just thinking he does look clearly sees daytime.
Well, that's another thing, they do the negative exposure when they're traveling in the carriage, which is a neat little effect. And
they sort of one of the interesting things is the way that he gets that Murnau is able to show the sort of strangeness of Orlok. As well as travelling to the castle. So when Hut is picked up at the inn by Orlok's coach, and clearly Orlok is driving it, it's sped up very fast, so you can see the sense of strangeness before you even meet Orlok properly at the castle.
Yeah, actually it's under cranking. They crank it slowly, under cranking, and then when it's played back at normal speed, then it speeds up.
But you also see that with when he's putting the coffins on the horse-drawn coach, and then it suddenly driving off.
Yeah, there's kind of a neat effect where he's on the ship, and it's sort of stop and moving the coffin lid, but then he sort of gets pulled up as a standing position.
Yeah, I mean. Is this the first ever adaptation of Dracula, or was there a
there was potentially maybe one or two others. There was a Hungarian one, but it doesn't really exist. Somebody's tried to sort of piece it together and what it was about, but I think there was that, and there might have been one other one, but nothing of substantial. But yeah, because the Stoker estate just didn't, I don't think, want it to be adapted until they authorized sometime around 25, I guess it was. Was it Balderston I think it's him, or is he the one that fixed up the American one? But anyway, the play that was done, and it was done here in the UK, and then Bela took over in the US. Bela Lugosi.
Yeah, so I enjoyed it. It's about, let me just think, it's 95 minutes long, so that's about an hour and a half, roughly.
Yeah, just over an hour and a half. Yeah, I think there's still scenes that might be missing still, but there's several scenes that have been found here and there, like a few seconds. There was, I think, some found in the Czech archive at some point.
Like I say, again, as with Metropolis, it doesn't drag. It really keeps you engaged. There's the Renfield character who is who is, I think from the way he looks and acts, he seems to be. Is he under Orlock's influence at the beginning of the film when he's looking at that letter, or does that come later? Because it seemed to me he was a bit strange to begin with. And he calls Hutter in.
Yeah, well, he's the that's the thing. He's not really. Renfield. He's his boss.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they do show that he has some influence over long distance, and that's what there is suggested in the book as well.
So, like I say, I really enjoyed that. The soundtrack, unlike Metropolis, that really did fit with this when I listened to it. I didn't get.
Well, I think it is the Erdman. Is it Erdman? Hans Erdman, that did the original soundtrack, because it's called a Symphony of Horror, and it should be symphonic. The first time I ever saw it was on TV, and they had sort of like a spiral gyro jazz thing to it. It was just absolutely horrible. So I remember turning it off and then just putting in, because I had some Beethoven CD, so I put in Beethoven's Ninth or Fifth Symphony or one of them.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, the soundtrack really did fit.
Yeah, because I think I thought it was, they did the Erdmans. It's Erdman, I think, is the. I can't see it here, but I'm pretty sure they used the original soundtrack to it. Yeah, I don't see it. Actually, let's look at the booklet. It'll say the booklet here. Music, yeah, Hans Erdman. For the I can't read that, it's way too small.
Hans Erdman, for the prior 2007 restoration, the original score, which at the time of the film's release was only ever performed live and never recorded, was performed and recorded by the Radio Symphony Orchestra Saarbrücken, conducted by Bernd Heller.
Yeah, because I remember, I think the BFI release uses a different one, but I remember seeing Christopher Frayling.
Yeah.
Christopher Frayling?
Yeah, that'd be.
Saying that, it's in the title, Symphony of Horror, Symphony, and for almost a century they couldn't quite get it correct. But that does have it, so finally.
Well, all I can say is that if you get a chance to watch this, particularly with the original music score, it's really good, and you can see how it influences Dracula adaptations in future.
Yeah, because in the UK you can get the Eureka Masters of Cinema. In the US it's Kino Lorber. I think they use the same sort of transfer and everything for this. But the BFI one, the British Film Institute one, is slightly different. And they all have, every version has different extras on, so hence sometimes you can get 10 copies of the same film because of extras.
So with that, I'll say goodbye, and I'll see you next week.